Hello, listeners. Today it's a pleasure speaking with Henrik Johansson, who is the co-founder and president at Gembah. Gembah is the world's first end-to-end product development platform and talent marketplace, helping companies and innovators take their ideas from concept to reality faster, better, and at a lower cost than ever before. Now, prior to Gembah, Henrik was the CEO and co-founder of Boundless, which grew to over $100 million in revenue and was acquired, and has a multitude of companies and executive positions prior to that. In this episode, we talk about how your personal journey, values, experiences all create who you are as a leader, and how that can not just impact the people, but how that leaves a mark on your organization too. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. What does it truly mean to be a leader? Welcome to The Executive, a podcast that highlights the career journeys, struggles, successes, and day-to-day experiences of leaders. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Ritter, bringing over 10 years of experience as a leadership and career coach, L&D consultant, and healthcare executive. My mission is to guide leaders towards creating a career they can love. Thank you for listening. Now let's hear from the executive. Not many leaders or CEOs, founders are out there in
Got it.
podcasts. There aren't hosts of podcasts. They're not coming on as guests on podcasts. They're even looking at your LinkedIn. I mean, the awards that you've received, the coverage that you get. What's behind all that, for you specifically?
Yeah. I think it is. I shouldn't say it is. I'm sure that there's a lot of different leadership styles. There are a lot of CEOs that are just heads down, just working, making it happen. I found it, personally rewarding, and I also think it's really good for business. For example, recently in January, we made a trip to Asia. My business Gembah, we help people manufacture products, or design and manufacture products, and we went on a tour to India, China, Vietnam, visiting different factories. And I posted about it the whole time, and posted about the experiences. And, the tariffs were starting to become a big deal. And a lot of people were wondering and curious about what's happening. And I was able to present the perspective of, how does India view the tariffs and how do they view Donald Trump? And I posted the Indian magazine cover of Trump pointing, "We don't want you." And it was related to H-1B visas and stuff. So, and I got so much response from it. And I know we got business from it because, if I hadn't posted, nobody would know that we were there or that we had these teams and we have this factory connections. And I think by sharing those stories, it definitely increased, the awareness. And I think people's perception of our capabilities and expertise. So, is it necessary? Probably not. Is it beneficial? I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah, this idea of personal brand, and your brand is, intertwined with Gembah, co-founder and such, other than just leader. And it's like, even working as an executive in a company, are you the company or are you? And why would people even be interested in following you? So when you think about what your post, like, what, I guess so many people reach out to me and they go, "What do I post?" And it looks like, well, you were just posting your life and what you were doing at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to post things that are relevant and interesting. I think that sometimes people, when they try to self-promote, they post, if things are too sort of self-promotional, I think people can smell that a mile away. So that's why I think that the post from my trip to Asia was good, because I always try to lead with, "Hey, this is what's going on over here. This is the perspective that people have. These are things that we're seeing as manufacturing shifting from China to other parts of the world." I think you have to lead with the value. You have to make it interesting. You have to have, it's like good advertising, right? It has to be, there has to be a hook. You have to deliver something that gives the reader a benefit. And then I think you can, I don't think you have to worry too much about pitching yourself. I think that the goal has to be to, share value and share content that's interesting to read. And then I think you build your
Yeah.
brand automatically from that. Versus when
Mm-hmm.
it's,
Mm-hmm.
when it's too self-promotional, I think that people can smell that and they're not interested in reading a commercial, right?
Yeah. Yeah. With a lot of the AI generated content, you just kind of see a lot of prompting and then copy and pasting. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that is following the same sentence structure that I've read now 20 times.
Yeah.
And
It's
if
pretty
I'm not going to
cringy.
talk about it, it is. And I think we have some false validity through different bots as well that are kind of promoting content. But like, if you wouldn't say it at a dinner party, or you wouldn't say it to your team, or you wouldn't say it, like, would you should you post about it? And then, of course, putting the spin on, like, does this relate to my company and my values? I imagine.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I think, and
so
I,
you,
so go ahead.
no, please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you that, um, the Asia trip was one example. I mean, otherwise I try to write about tariffs. I write about other things that are relevant. Obviously, like you have a podcast, so I like to post about the podcast and the guests that are on the podcast. But similar to you, I think that the podcast is really focused on the stories of the people I invite to the podcast. It's not a commercial. Nobody would listen to it if it was, but it's really taking genuine interest in their journey. Because one thing I've seen is that, there's so much publicity around overnight successes and the secret formula to building $1 million company overnight, and in my experience, that very rarely happens, and that every entrepreneur I talk to has gone through a lot of hardship and a lot of challenges, and at least once they were almost went under, often many times. And those are the stories I like to share because I think it actually inspires folks. It's hard to see the guy who built Native and he grew to 100 million in 3 years. And, you look at that and you feel like a loser. But if you hear the real stories about the real struggles and how people overcame those stories, how they got the courage to to move on despite adversity, I think those are inspiring stories and important stories that people need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, the truth is I went under a negative 3 times. I had a co-founder that stole everything from me. I had a
Yeah.
personal relationship blow up and I couldn't work for a year. I was in a
Mm-hmm.
car accident. Like all these things, these are real. And I mean, would you be open to sharing an adversity moment with the audience and part of your journey and your struggle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first startup went under. I started a .com back in the early days of the internet. We raised a good amount of money, $35 million in VC money. That was a lot back then. It's a lot today, and we had tremendous early success. We grew very fast. We were able to create strong partnerships, but we were also burning cash very quickly. And when the markets turned and the .com bubble burst, we did not have enough cash reserves to survive, and company went under. I was the last man standing, having to close everything down and try to sell the assets and recover anything we could for our creditors. We had to fire 100 people, and close the doors on what was a dream. And I'd gotten married just 6 months earlier, and at that time I could not envision any scenario where I wouldn't be a multimillionaire at the end of this. And then literally 6 months later, it was all gone. And my wife and I are newly married in San Francisco, and I don't have a job anymore. So it was tough. Fortunately, we have a strong relationship, and she's always been uh, my partner and biggest supporter. So I happened to get a job in Austin. That's how I ended up here, and then came here. And a couple of years later, after licking my wounds and recovering, I started Boundless, that then became $100 million revenue company. And so it's and Boundless didn't get there overnight either. That was a 15-year journey with a lot of near-death experiences too throughout that. So that's I have a whole list of stories. Yeah, But the first one was the hardest one because it was such a drastic and quick shift from thinking you had it all figured out and expecting that everything was going to work out really well, and then it didn't at all.
Mm-hmm. So when is the book coming out? Because I want to read it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I've been working on writing a couple. I seem to never be able to finish them. I don't know if my life story is that interesting, but you certainly picked up a few things along the road. So
Mhm.
maybe I should.
So I'm working with a couple executives, especially over the past year, who had to start contemplating what is my life outside of this company. And they were
Mm-hmm.
actually founders, also family business owners, and the CEOs of those companies that have never had to really get a job outside of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I know about your profile, you're in management consulting, so you kind of had that external experience. But now, all of a sudden the company turns, you have to figure out where to get a job. And it's just probably a while ago, but how did you like navigate that specifically and then end up finding that opportunity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was. I didn't know how to do it initially. Try to go back into corporate, see if Anderson Consulting would hire me back, and at that time the market was in the pits, so they weren't hiring either. So I just started looking for jobs, contacting folks that were in the same industry because I had built up a fair amount of expertise in just that area of marketplaces and credit and lending. And I was fortunate enough to find this company in Austin that was in a similar space, and they looked for a leader to come in. So that was a bit of luck. But I think at another time, a little later in my career, before I started Boundless, actually, I found myself without a job. Um, and I got some really good advice from someone. He said, "Don't apply for jobs. Don't look for jobs online. It's never going to happen. Most likely, at least." He said, "Go meet people, develop your 30-second pitch and your 2-minute pitch about who you are, what you're good at, and what you're looking for, and then go meet people, one or two every day. And every time you meet somebody, you ask them to introduce you to somebody else you can meet too." Because
Hmm.
eventually, his thesis was that the only way you're going to get a real job is through some kind of relationship, somebody you meet, somebody that
Yeah.
likes you, somebody that sees a fit with you in the organization. And I think that was true. That's how I found my co-founder for Boundless eventually, and how we got started.
The power of relationships. It sounds like very similar to how you go raise money, maybe. So,
Yeah, and I'm an introvert, so this does not that was not easy for me. But you just have to see that as a job. My job is to go have coffee with one person a day and have lunch with one person a day, and that's what I'm going to do.
yeah, that's a
um,
strong mentality.
yeah. Yeah, and you meet a lot of interesting people too. I mean, I should probably do that more often. They say, dig the well before you're thirsty, right?
Yeah, it's just tough because when you're not thirsty, there's a lot of other things that are grabbing your attention.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, how do we prioritize that? That you kind of mentioned that you're an introvert, and yet you have a podcast, you post online about your trips across the globe. You just
Hmm.
highlighted the importance of relationships. And I know that as a leader, internal communication is important too. So you're
Hmm.
posting externally, and I'm just interested if that, like, how does that influence your internal strategy? I imagine your employees can see the podcasts and they can see the posts on socials.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, how do you then, especially as an introverted leader, um, communicate the important things that you need to communicate within your organization? What have you found to be most effective?
Hmm. That's a great question. I think that even as an introvert, it doesn't mean that you can't be on stage. It's just draining. I think they say that, and extrovert wakes up with low energy, and the more people they meet, the more energy they get. Whereas an introvert wakes up with a lot of energy, and personal interactions kind of drains them. But that doesn't mean that you can't do them, and it doesn't mean that you can't be good at them. When I first came to Austin, actually, I still felt, even though I had lived in the U.S. for 6-7 years, that I wasn't quite as good of a communicator in English as I was in Swedish. And one thing I noticed is that I wasn't as funny in English, because humor is so much about timing, and you got to be able to just go, have a straight line from your brain to your mouth. So I took improv classes, and I think that was one of the best things I've ever done. It was super helpful. It helped my public speaking. It helped my internal speaking. Once you stood on stage in front of 50, 100 people, and without a script, and you have to come up with something to say, a traditional natural business meeting or business interaction feels a lot less scary. You develop a level of courage, and just, I don't know if it's courage even. It's just you get used to it, and you start seeing that it's not scary. It's not dangerous. There's nothing bad that's going to happen, even if you completely bomb, right? And it also, improv in general just helped me, I think, to think faster, and think creatively, and think funny, and try to see the funny in any situation. So that helped me a lot as an introvert. And then I think you just have to force yourself to do the meetings with people, to communicate to the team, and even if it's doesn't come natural, you just have to, it's important, so you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. When you were ever on stage doing improv, did you switch to Swedish just because it also probably had some funny timing, or did you try to stay in English?
No, I had to speak English, otherwise nobody would understand what I said. But I did,
That's the funny part.
I did a fair amount of accents. That was kind of my thing. I don't think I don't know if most people, improv artists, do that, but I found it easier to come out of my shell if I try to be somebody else.
Fun. This is based in Austin.
It was in Austin. Yeah, it's the Hideout. I think it's still there on Congress, right next to the Paramount Theater there. It was a great experience.
I took a couple improv classes when I was trying to learn how to be social and
Yeah.
how to be funny and deal with those introverted tendencies that I also have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, forcing yourself to just be spontaneous and learn that there's nothing to be afraid of from a social interaction is pretty incredible. And it's difficult. You can't tell someone that. They have to go
Yeah.
experience it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's muscle memory that you have to develop, because I think before that, I used to often think about things that I should say, and that, and that's once you miss the moment, it's, you can't say that anymore. It's like just weird. Can't crack a joke about something that somebody said a minute ago.
You
If the
can.
conversation already moved on.
It just wouldn't be very funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What's uh so you shared a little bit about your background, and I also appreciate you opening up a little bit about one of the struggles. So you've had a variety of leadership opportunities and experiences. If I was to poll a couple people that you work with right now, how do you think they would describe you as a leader?
That's a good one. I think people would describe me as inclusive. I think one thing I have brought from Sweden, and I think it could be a good or a bad thing, but I'd say I seek consensus. I seek input. I'm the opposite, I'd say, of a dictatorial leader. And sometimes, that may, some might see that as a weakness, that you don't make as rapid decisions. You are open to be influenced by others and their opinions. And I'd say I always do that. Ultimately, if I need to tell you what to do, then why are you working for me? I think that your team, your direct reports, they should they should come up with the solutions. I'm there to challenge them and question them, but ultimately, if I tell people what to do, then how do I hold them accountable? Because they just did what I told them to do, right? So I always try to get the best out of the team and have them become great leaders themselves, and them challenge their team to do the same. I think that's the only way I know how to scale an organization, right? And then I also have to challenge me to communicate clearly and communicate continuously. I think the second part is the hardest part for me, because I'm very much a sort of engineering maven mind, where you feel that if I communicated something once, then that should be sufficient. I have already exchanged this piece of information, so why do I need to say it again? But I think as a leader, particularly when it comes to core values and mission and vision, those things, I think it's absolutely essential that you keep repeating those over and over and over again till people are tired of hearing them, until every person in the company can repeat them.
Hmm.
I
I
don't know if
love
I answered
that
your question. I kind of went off on a
yeah,
rant there.
no, that I love that you said continuously communicate. I often have to coach through this expectation that one, people care about the company as much as the leader does, as the
Mm-hmm.
owner does, the president does. Not true. And that once something has been shared, that person knows what they need to do. Instead of, oh, if they didn't do the thing that I expected them to do, instead of blaming them, go, well, shoot, what could I have done differently in this moment or throughout these moments? How could I have checked in more, created progress updates, trained differently? Like I always love the example of delegation. And when you give someone to something and you think it's easy, like it's a little rock to you. You have big rocks, you have big things that take up a lot of your time. You have a little rock. You give it to someone, you're like, great, this is easy. Go do this thing. Well, that thing is new to them. It becomes a big rock. And so now all of a sudden you've weighed them down and you think you've given them a small rock, but no, you've given them a big rock. And the level of patience and training, I think, is sometimes missed because of capable leaders. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love that you brought that up. Mm,
Yeah, I think that when you do one-on-one with your direct reports and your team, I think it's important that they set the agenda. They should come to you with. I mean, certainly you can have a template, right? These are my biggest obstacles. This is what I'm working on this week, etc. But I think it's important that they're the ones that come to you and express what they need help with. What are the big rocks that they need your help to move out of the way? Not that
hmm.
this becomes this inquiry of, okay, what have you done this week? But let them lead the meeting.
Yeah, that proactive approach, one of the aspects of self-leadership that's at the core of Live for Yourself Consulting is personal accountability. So you're
Mm-hmm.
empowered to go do the thing that you need to do, and you're accountable to do it. And I'm not, your leader is there to maybe provide resources, to build a positive environment, and trust you though to take care of things, to be proactive.
Mm-hmm.
If if you had to pick only one value from your company and you could only have one, you couldn't have all the others, which one would you choose and why?
Yes, we we talk about this. One of our core values is passion, and uh, we talk about that in terms of that we have to be passionate about what our clients are trying to achieve, because our customers, Gembah helps people go from idea to finished product. We help uh, primarily small businesses, often solopreneurs, often husband wife teams, to turn their ideas into finished products and help them create a business. And for these people, this is mission critical, right? This is their maybe once a lifetime. They've decided to take their savings, tens of thousands of dollars, and invest in this product that they're going to create that they think is going to change their life, probably. And it very well could, right? They could be their path to financial freedom, their ability to work from home, spend more time with the kids, their ability to retire, their ability to quit the job they hate. So it's not like we're selling a piece of software to a Fortune 500 company, right? It's our customers. What they hire us to do is absolutely mission critical. Failure is not an okay outcome, right? So we try to continuously tell our people that we have to be as passionate about these projects as our customers are, because it is mission critical. These projects can't fail. We don't want them to fail. We have to do everything we can to make sure that they're successful. So I'd say that is the most important one, and I'd say maybe one that sets us apart from a lot of other traditional companies.
Yeah, putting yourself in the mind of the customer and really taking on their fears and their hopes and their
Mm-hmm.
dreams. And that connects to the core meaning of Gembah, which
Mm-hmm.
is to help people create, right, their freedom, which
Yeah.
is like, what a mission. What a mission.
Thank you.
I I remember there was one company that would have a stuffed animal and they'd put it in every, because they meet in person, they'd put it in every meeting room to be like,
Yeah.
this is the customer. Would you say this in front of the customer?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would they say in this meeting towards what we're trying to create? And what a powerful value if you could get everyone on board with that. It's because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are me focused. But to get them focused on the customer, I can imagine that would be very motivating and engaging.
Yeah, and it's easy to, of course, a product development journey goes on a lot of different stages. Go from concept to design to CAD drawing to sourcing. So, when you're just working on one of those steps, it might not be obvious that you are part in this success journey, right? It may be tempting to just check the box, to complete the task, to pass it on to the next guy down the line, and that's what I think we have to fight. That it's not just checking a box, it's not just doing the task, it's not just completing what we committed to in our proposal. It's really deeply caring about doing the right thing for the customer.
So if you were to going back in time to the
Mm-hmm.
book comment and you had to choose the title of your book or the subtitle based on your journey up to now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm curious what comes to mind.
Oh, it have to be something about a Swede's journey, um, to the big country. Because at the heart of who I am, I'm Swedish. Our kids are dual citizens. I go back all the time, um, and I think it's one thing that makes me different. We talked about my leadership style before. I think that everybody should realize that they are unique and different, particularly in today's environment with AI, being able to do pretty much anything, or soon can do anything. I think what we as human beings uh, can bring and what makes us unique is our humanity and our own stories and our journeys. So I think that's something I encourage young people to think about, and realize that they're special, that they're unique, that nobody else has been through the journey that they have. And so yeah, I guess Swede's journey to the big country, something like that.
Yeah,
It's not good.
Swede's
I'll
journey
come
to
up
the
with
big
something better.
country. Yeah, your unique journey from uh a Swede's journey to the big country. Yeah. Yeah. But like this is like as I zoomed out for a second, because I mean my parents are not from here. And it's kind of like what the American dream was. It's
Mm-hmm.
like come here, create a professional, career path,
Mm-hmm.
found company doesn't go well, find another company.
Yeah.
Company doesn't go well. And then it takes off. And here we
Yeah.
are. Now we're living in Austin, Texas. Um, yeah, really neat. I appreciate you sharing that. And also to our listeners, like what unique part of yourself are you not bringing to your job because of fear, because of, thinking that you have to fit in? And I say go find a place where you can bring your unique self or try to bring a touch of yourself to the job and see what happens. And a lot of times our ideas of what we can and can't do isn't actually true. Um, so thank you for your story and your journey. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners or even just how to find out more about Gemba?
Yeah. If you do have a product idea, I find a lot of people do. I talk to all my Uber drivers, and I'd say close to half of them have some product idea. They know somebody that has a product idea. I always get a kick out of that. And none of them know about Gembah, right? So I think that if you've been thinking about something, did you have an idea how you can improve the world through a product? Go to gembah.com or shoot me an email at Henrik, Henrik, at Gembah, Gembah.com. I'd be happy to chat to you about it. I love talking to folks about their ideas and see if we can help them make them real.
Well, Henrik, did you just actually put your email out there? That is impressive.
I find so
I
few
am
people
very
pick you up on
impressed.
it.
So, listeners, if Gembah sounds interesting, if you want to change the world through a product, you've heard it here. Thank you, Henrik. I appreciate your time and your story and everything that you do.
Thanks, Benjamin. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Executive Podcast, where we explore what it truly means to be a leader. If you've taken one thing away, make sure to subscribe, share, and most importantly, leave a review. Thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.